This is a video on how to use Canva to make program ads for CYT programs. We'll be using canva.com. This is what Canva looks like when you first go to the website. If you haven't got a login, you want to create an account. It's free. Once you've created the account, we'll come up and show something like this. This is your dashboard. For CYT's programs, you have a choice of different sizes. We'll take a look at this form. You can choose 4 different sizes for these graphic ads. The business card, quarter page, and half page. This is important because there are very specific dimensions that you have to create your graphic to be. We're going to start with a really super simple one, like if you just have 2 minutes and you need to get something done. So we'll do the quarter page. If you note here, the quarter page is 4 inches by 2.25 inches on this form. However, when you come into Canva, you're going to have to change that a little. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to click on Use Custom Dimensions. Then you're going to change pixels to inches. And with Canva, you have to put the width first. And if you'll notice here on our form, you can see that it's actually narrower than it is tall. But the way the dimensions are written is the opposite way. You want to make sure you put 2.25 by 4, otherwise you'll have it facing the wrong direction. So we're going to put 2.25 by 4, and now we'll have our basic format. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, and I've actually already uploaded this picture. I'll show you the next one how to upload. But this is a picture that has a black background, and the reason why I've chosen this is because I want to be as simple as possible. I'm just going to put the text right on top of the picture. That's all I'm going to do. So what I'm doing is I'm grabbing these corners to adjust it. I'm watching. You can see how it clicks into place. Canva's great for this kind of the way that they've created it. You can actually really control nicely where you are in space. So I'm going to leave it like that, because again, this is a really, really fast one. Then I'm going to come over here to text. I'm going to add a little bit of body text. I'm changing this to white because my background is dark. I'm going to drop the font size a little bit, and I'm just going to write something very, very, very fast and simple. Congratulations. And now I want to move it somewhere where it can actually be seen. So down here is probably fine. Again, this is just like, whew, done. I want to get this project done and moved on. The last thing that I would recommend you do is go in here to the picture. Click on the picture part, not the text. You're in the picture now. Click on Filter. You see there are different filters. The programs are printed in black and white, so it's really helpful to go ahead and turn it black and white so you can see what it's actually going to look like. Believe it or not, this can be quite surprising. In this case, it's pretty clear and straightforward. It's going to be fine. But it's very helpful to actually see it in black and white. You don't have to submit it in black and white, but they're going to turn it black and white anyway, so it doesn't hurt to do it. So there's our example of a very fast and simple, easy one. We're going to download it. PNG is a great way to do it, but we need to submit them as JPEGs, so we'll just go ahead and download as JPEGs. It will automatically download wherever your default download location is on your computer. Okay, so that's downloading. Now let's go ahead and do another one that's a little bit more complex, but still pretty simple. We're going to do another one. Sorry, that has to be inches. We're going to do another one that's the same dimension. And this time I'm going to use a picture that I'll show you how to upload, and I'm going to use a picture that doesn't have a black background, so I'm going to have to add something. So here I'm going to add this headshot, drag it over, drop it. You see how the headshot is not going to fill this space. If I were to actually try to fill this space, it would look ridiculous. So this is a way to manage an image, creating a graphic when your picture doesn't fill the whole space, or you really don't have a good place to put text on. The first one I showed you, I probably wouldn't use something like that because it's a little too busy, but it's really useful for when you're in a hurry. So we've got the picture, And if you look when I move it, you see how there's a little vertical line? That's showing me that that's perfectly centered this direction. And if I went like this, you can see now it's perfectly centered in the picture, but I don't want it to be that way. I want to have it just right up at the top, but centered left to right. So I'm going to now click on background. And when I choose a color here, it's going to fill the entire background, this part. But in fact, what's happening is this is a picture that's sitting on top of this whole thing. So it's going to actually fill in the whole thing. But so there, you can see now I've made that black. It's still black behind it, but we don't really care about that. It's just a simple way to get a place for text. Maybe I don't want it solid black. Maybe I want it gray. Maybe I want a completely different color. I mean, obviously, this is just an example because we won't be doing this. We're going to be going ahead and doing black and white. It's the logical thing to do to actually put it black and white first, but I keep forgetting to do that. You can also adjust this a little bit if you need to, if you want to, right here. It will completely remove grayscale, but in addition to this, you can go back here and go into advanced options and control this sort of thing too. So if you want to be controlling how the picture is rendering, if it needs a little bit of editing, there are a lot of options. Lastly, if you want a gray that is not actually in there, you can go in and pick any color you want. But there's a little sliding scale thing here that you can work with. Okay, so now we have this basic template. We're going to add a little bit of body text. This time I'm going to do a little bit more. Maybe I'll say something like, we are so proud of you. And then another one. And we'll get this one pretty. There's some great, all sorts of kind of fun. You can spend forever going through this. And I'm just randomly picking something here. And then you can just add, love Mama and Papa. Again, you see when you're moving things around, so if you have that little plus sign, that's going to allow you to actually grab hold of the whole thing, move it around. And it's showing you, it's helping you figure out where you are in space with those vertical dotted lines and horizontal as well. Yep. So that one didn't feel like it was centered to me, and it wasn't. You can tell by the fact that it was not having a line on it. No, sorry, double click that by mistake. That's actually something else I'll show you. But not yet. So I'm going to double check to make sure that's centered. There it is, yeah, okay. So there you go. Again, that would be a download it, save it, that kind of thing. You want to make sure it's a JPEG when you download it and save it. All right, lastly, I want to show you how to make a bigger one. So the pictures that we chose previously, if you take it, let's look back at this because this is kind of important. And I figured this out the very first ad I did. So the very first ad I did, one of the reasons I always now change them black and white before I submit them is because your eye doesn't realize what's going on sometimes when there are colors, especially if they're light colors. You see a distinction between the picture and the page, but if the edge of the page is actually white, if the edge of the color is lighter or kind of, it's not even white, if the edge of the photo is a light color, then it can basically the text, the ad kind of seems like it's floating in the program because the edges are white and it doesn't seem to have a good boundary. So in this case, I've got a picture that's got some pretty good darkness. This one's very dark, so these are going to stand out. But now I want to do one I'm going to do this half page one, a 4" by 5", which we are going to say 5 by 4 because we have to do width first. And I'm going to use a lot more white space. So let's go ahead and do custom dimensions. Now in this case, because it's more of a horizontal ad, I'm doing the large ones first, because again, our width is first. It shows up. Here it is. I'm going to upload another picture. Okay, now this picture, what I want to do on this particular ad is I would like to have him over here in this area and then have a good amount of space for writing. So I don't necessarily want all of this stuff around the sides of him. I can actually work on the image inside of Canva as well. So I can double click it. There we go. I can either double click it, which is what I just did to get here, or I can go say crop. It'll do the same thing. And so that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to work on this. Now this particular picture, I already know I want to have a border, so I am going to actually give a little more space around the left and the top. So you notice I'm not cropping it tight in here necessarily. I'm a little tighter here. It's not perfectly symmetrical. A little bit higher here because I want space for a border. And then I'm going to say yes. Okay, so now I'll move this over here. Stretch it out a little bit so it's fitting. You do really want to double check to make sure you have hit the edges or even are over them a little bit, because I have more than one time downloaded a picture and discovered that I had a little white border on one side because I accidentally didn't quite get to the edge. This gray and the white are kind of close. I'm not paying close attention. Okay, so here's the image. Over here in this white space, I want to put some text. So I'm going to go over here. And you can play around with this. If you get into it, you can play with these. These are some great combinations. So for example, you click this, it sticks it in here. You can modify these words, and it's designed. It's like these are pre-designed combinations, which are great. You know, they're a lot of fun to play with. You can spend a lot of time on this. There's a lot of fun stuff to do. So this time I'm going to go and do something like, let's say, Cinzel. And we'll say, I'm not a very good typist. Move that around. If you notice, oh, it's not doing it right now. It normally does something that now I can't play because it's not doing it for some reason. Here we go. Okay, so as you use fonts in your project, it will start saving the fonts you've used up here in this area, which is great because then you don't have to scroll around. So I'm going to change that to the font that I'm using. You don't have to use the same font. You can go crazy. Again, centering, using those little lines. You see them showing up as I grab it and move it. They're centering them. And I'm going to finish this up. I'm just randomly choosing things. This is not necessarily what I would end up doing. You know, for example, here I might want to say, you know, I think this would look nicer if Grandpa was closer to Grandma me, so then I'd pull it apart, or that sort of thing. I'm just kind of trying to do something fast to show you the basics. Okay, now here's where we get to the place of it being black and white, you know, on white paper, causing an issue to be aware of. So I have my black text on a white background, which is fine, that's great. But if you print this on a white piece of paper, you have his picture here and then text just sort of floating on the page. And it looks a little bit funny. So what I want to do is I'm going to add a border. If you come over here on the left and you hit Elements and then Frames, and then you will get more borders than you know what to do with. Now in this particular case, we are looking for, we need to scroll past all of these little pictures with scene, you know, the blank scenes, and we want to look for stuff, get to the point where are they? What? We're looking for the open frames with no background, no little seamed background. My internet might be slow right now. There we go. Okay, so these kind of backgrounds, and you need to find one that's a rectangle. The rectangle, it thought I was clicking on it. The rectangle ones are modifiable. They will stretch in both directions. So if you come across one that's square, don't use it. It just won't move. So let's say I want to use this one. I just click on that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change its color. Let's say like that. And then I drag it out and let it snap in. I watch to make sure it's actually hitting. And I take it down. And I take it over. And I think I want that to be a little stronger. So something like that. You can continue to work on the different parts. Each thing, when you click on it, is accessible. Sometimes it's a pain. With the borders, if you put them on top, you sometimes have to move them out of the way to access, to let you click on things in the background. There is a feature, not a feature, but like a, shoot. I'll show you this over here. Arrange. And what Arrange does is it puts things, if you ever use Photoshop, it's basically, these are layers. And so what it's doing is moving the different layers and different levels. When you have a border, though, the trouble is the border has to be the very top of it. So you could arrange it and you can move that backwards, and, you know, that would be fine. But it's still going to cause you issues if you want to try to go underneath. So with the borders, it's really best to do the borders very, very last and stick them on top. At least that has been my experience. My knowledge of Canva is 100% from using it repeatedly. So I have not actually been formally trained or anything in it. So if anyone does know a different piece of information about that, let me know. So there you go. There's a basic. Now I'm actually looking at this and I'm seeing right up here something's awry. So I need to just pull this frame over a little. And every once in a while this will happen, that I'll download the picture and say, oh, you know what, I have to go back and modify it. But that's actually okay, because Canva rocks, and they keep in your account, they keep all the images that you've ever created, unless you delete them, as layers. So, for example, okay, so these are some things that we just made. So here are things that, you know, I've made recently for work. Here's a picture, an image that these two are ads that I made for the last show. And I could actually come in here. If I just loved this and I wanted to keep this whole thing again, I can come in here, I can modify each thing. I can create a copy and I can just fool around with it in here. I can come up here and I can create a whole new copy, which I can completely modify and make a new name of. So this one would be new copy of JAD or something like that. It just is really cool because, so let's say you go to the trouble of, you go through the effort this time of making an ad. It's going to save that as layers. Next time, if you just want to stick a new picture in there and some new content, new text, that's all you have to do. You've already got it there. You just make a copy and you're good to go. This, this function here, where you go like this here, this is a fun way to kind of just look at, like, you know, this font is kind of like a little bit too frou-frou. I don't really like it very much, but I want something that's kind of pretty. Let's see, I'm going to try this. Well, let's compare this one versus this one. Which one do I like better? You know, that kind of thing. So that's a really easy way to kind of compare stuff, just by making a copy and then changing one aspect of it. Just, you know, stuff like that. So that's what I do for the ads. You can go super simple. You can go a little less simple. You can go quite a bit less simple. You can make any of these sized ads. Just all you have to do is make sure that you're putting in the dimensions with your putting in your custom dimensions as inches, and you are making sure that the width is the first dimension that you enter. Feel free to ask me any questions if you have any.